Hey, welcome back. In this video, I want to teach you a little bit more in depth about how to create a speech people will love. Now, in one of the previous videos, I talked about the 3 foundational pieces that you need. This is going a little bit further in depth as you start to want to create a little more structure to your speech. And it's important that you hit on a few of these key things specifically because it will allow you to connect with the audience better and communicate your message clearly in a way that helps them know what to do and helps them get an outcome they want and overcome whatever problem you are helping them solve. Because again, that's why we are professional speakers. All we do is we help people overcome problems and get outcomes that they want. And our speech is the product or service. Us using our story is the product or service by which we help people do that. So in one of the previous videos, we talked about the mess. All right. And the first couple of elements here are going to be similar to that video, but there's a few more in this video I did not talk about. So you want to talk about the mess here, the problem specifically you're helping them solve. Let's say, for example, you're speaking at, I don't know, a marriage conference. And there's a lot of things you could talk about when it comes to marriage. Maybe you're teaching people how to communicate better. Maybe the problem that you're identified that you're speaking on is that couples don't know how to communicate clearly. Maybe that's the problem. Couples don't know how to communicate clearly. And we all know everything else breaks down if you can't communicate clearly with your spouse or with your audience or with people at your job. So let's just say, for example, lots of spouses struggle to communicate clearly with each other. Let's just say that's your problem. Now, another thing you want to do is identify the outcome they want. What does success look like once they learn from you and apply what you teach them? What is that ideal outcome, success? What does their life now look like because they took your advice and it worked? If it's communicating more clearly with their spouse, maybe that outcome is they argue less every day, or they're on the same page with certain issues and they didn't used to be. These things are a big deal because when you start using the exact words and phrases that people are thinking when they're going through a struggle or facing a problem, you now have their full attention because like, oh my gosh, it's like you know me, it's like you're reading my mail, or it's like God sent you. I've been told all these things. And it really, I don't know if it was all of those or not, but it's because I did my research. I did my friggin' homework on the audience pertaining to what I was talking about. So I knew the very words that they were using to describe and think about the problems they were dealing with. And I integrated those into my speech. That's why some of these things are so important to know. Now, another thing you want to do is you want to be able to communicate why you relate to the audience. You know, I remember seeing Jack Canfield speak for the first time. I think I was out in California somewhere. And he got up on stage. He's this mega millionaire best-selling author. And he gets up on stage, and the first thing he said was this: "I'm just like you." Why did he do that? He did that because he wanted to connect with the audience early on really fast. Because all of us in the audience, all we saw was, Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, Jack Canfield, Success Principles guy, gazillionaire probably. And wow, he's so different than us. And he got up and he just hit the nail on the head. He got up and he said, "I am just like you." First words out of his mouth. And then he went into some more things. Because if your audience doesn't relate to you, if they see you as like, oh, wow, I'm glad it worked for him, but he's so special because he's on stage and he's superhuman, or whatever the case, your message is not going to be as effective. So I say it this way. There's 2 things you want to do to establish this, being relative to your audience, making sure they understand that you're just like them. I call it connection and credibility. Connection, this is simply you talking about why you understand what they're going through. You might describe a situation that you went through that was similar or the same as what they've gone through or what they are going through. But then there's the credibility piece. This is the second piece you talk about, how you've been able to overcome that. Maybe early on in your marriage, you couldn't communicate well and you dealt with all these issues, but then you learned this thing and now you've been happily married after 20 years, you argue maybe once a week rather than, 10 times a day, or, whatever it is. Maybe you wrote a book on it because you're giving a speech on it because you learned, or maybe you've been able to help X number of people in their marriages to communicate better. And maybe they gave you some testimonials. Basically, it's the credibility piece is about showing people why they should listen to you. Because everyone's asking, why should I listen to this guy? If I talk about resilience and nobody knows who I am, they need to understand I was combat wounded by a suicide bomber in Afghanistan, burned second and third degree, spent 14 months at a medical center afterwards. And then after all that, I held my marriage together. We are happily married. I built a career. I rebuilt my life from the ground up. And I'm happy. I'm living the life I want to live now. See, there's some connection and credibility. The credibility piece right there is, I did all this, and I can show you how as well. The connection piece is a little more like something you might say, like, I understand what it's like to wake up next to your spouse after having that fight last night, and you're just looking at them and thinking to yourself, what have I got myself into? Or why won't they get it? Or whatever the case, all right? So the connection piece is letting people know why you understand their struggle and where they are. The credibility piece is you letting them know why they should listen to you, because you can show them a way out of where they are. The next thing you want to do is you want to be able to show them across their minefield. So picture this. There's a minefield, like in a war zone. They're on this side, and they're trying to get over here, and in the middle, there are mines. And if they step on one, it's going to blow them up, all right? So think about your message. By the way, this is like 70% of your speech. It's, take for example, creating 3 points, and 3 points is good especially for a starter speech. This is going to be, again, 70% of your talk, these 3 key points. This is where you're telling the people over here, and they're trying to get here, hey, step here first, here second, and then here third to get across the minefield. Because if you just run straight across, you're going to step on a bomb. It's going to blow stuff up. So this is your way. This is your process. This is your 3-point step, plan, solution, whatever, that they can easily follow to get from where they are to where they want to be. When I talk about resilience, the main keynote speech I've given for the past 15, 16, 17 years now, my 3 key points, how was I able to be so resilient? What was present in my life that helped me push through and overcome those horrible difficulties I went through? I talk about how I had a sense of meaning in my suffering. I had a mentor in my life, and I had a new mission for my life after getting injured. It was a meaning, mentoring, and a mission. If you've ever seen me speak, you've probably seen that talk. That was a 3-step plan. I talk about those things. I go there. I'll talk more about specifically how to put your speech together in another video. But those 3 points showed people what was present in my life that helped me, and I showed them how to apply it to their own lives and situations, no matter how different their struggle was than mine. And at the end of every speech, you always want a very simple, very clear call to action. This is you telling people what to do now. All right, so you've talked about all their struggles, how you related to them. You've been through it too. You've taught them some things that can help them. They know how to apply it. And now you're telling them what to do next. A lot of times it's, hey, go get in a group of people. Find a group of people that you can talk with. Or go get counseling. Or go talk to your spouse. Or try these techniques when you're trying to communicate with them. Maybe it's go buy my coaching. Maybe it's sign up for my free download and get on my email list so I can continue helping you. Whatever it is, at the end of your speech, you always want to leave people at the very last to very end with a call to action. Tell them to do something very clearly. So when you structure your speech with these more in-depth elements, and again, in my program at userstory.com, I'll actually show you how to do this more specifically and in detail. It's really awesome once you put it together. But these are just a few more deeper elements that you want to make sure are inside every single speech you do, because it'll allow the audience to relate to you. You're talking about their problem and the solution they want, the outcomes they want, why you understand their struggle, and why you can show them the way home across that minefield. And then you're telling them what to do next so they can make a real, actual positive impact and difference in their own lives. And in the next video, right up here somewhere, I'm going to show you a few key things you want to know for actually getting booked to speak. Because look, you can have the best message in the world, but if you can't get booked to speak, nobody's going to hear it. All right? So I'm going to talk about some key fundamentals for getting booked to speak, actually getting people to want to book you to speak. It's not that hard, especially when you know what you're doing. So click that video and I'll see you there.